Welcome to the Bold Money Revolution podcast. This is your source for straight talking, no fluff, business and high performance conversations that add real depth and value to the way bold leaders live, work, and thrive. I'm your host, Tara Newman. I'm here to show you how to optimize your performance as a leader so that you can grow a business that is profit-rich, efficient, and allows you to generate real, tangible wealth for yourself and others. We are here to help you lead with your values, to perform without overwhelm and burnout, and to do your most important work in the world. Hey, everyone. Today, we are talking about an incredibly important tool you can use to align your money, time, and energy with what matters most to you, as well as your personal and financial goals. Welcome to the Bold Money Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Tara Newman, and I am fired up for this conversation because we are talking about something that is so near and dear to my heart. It is a tool that I created 7 years ago, and I'm going to give you a little backstory on that. But just in general, I've been really stepping into deeper relationship with my own body of work and really doing the things that allow me to, as we would say, up level, and taking time to integrate all my lessons over the last 18 months, as I know you have had some really powerful lessons as well during this really uncertain time where there's a tremendous amount of unknowns and we are being faced with making decisions that maybe we haven't been faced with making before. And so I'm in a real powerful place of integration right now and owning my gifts. And so this is just a really exciting conversation for me to have. And we are talking about creating your Thrive list so you can stop overworking. It's probably going to be a bit of a longer episode. I actually polled everyone on my Instagram. If you're not following me over on Instagram, I'm at the Tara Newman, and I welcome connection and engagement over there. I welcome you to drop into my DMs and let me know what takeaways you might have had from this episode. I really, just in general, I just want everybody to know that I am here to build intentional relationships with my community. Listeners of this podcast, people who follow me on Instagram, people who join my email list. As a matter of fact, if you join my email list, which I really hope you do and become an email subscriber, because our email subscribers get a ton of value. That's really second to the podcast where I focus the most of my time. And I send personal video messages. I send personalized messages. The other day, I was feeling like the world was on fire and I was feeling super heavy about it and sad. And so when I feel that way, the thing that I love to do is just be with people. And I sent an email to my list and I was like, how are you feeling? I just honestly want to know. And I think sometimes people get a little creeped out because maybe they think I have an ulterior motive, and I really don't. I'm just here to form genuine connection. I believe that in the world of social media today, we are more disconnected than ever. We are using it as a crutch for a lot of hiding and behaviors and not being in relationship with people. So I do reach out personally, and if you're someone who's craving that level of connection, please come and find me. I'm here for that. I love meeting new and interesting people. I love hearing about what you have going on in your life and your business. It really is a joy to me and a gift to me. So, and if you get an email from me that's like a personal video, watch it and respond. Say hi back. You don't have to record a video back, although some people do, and I really appreciate that. Anyway, so I asked people on my Instagram, total ADHD sidetrack. I asked people on my Instagram how they wanted me to deliver this material to them. Did they want it through an Instagram Live? Did they want it through a webinar? Did they want it through the podcast? And overwhelmingly, everybody wanted me in their ears. So here we are, and we are talking about the Thrive list. And this process is the anti-budget. For all of you who might struggle to budget, save, and invest your money, it is the antidote to scarcity thinking and survival mode, which I know all too much about from our earliest days as business owners way back in 2005 with our first business where we suffered, and we're in survival mode during the Great Recession and then ultimately went bankrupt. And really, this Thrive List has come out of the totality of that experience. So the last 16 years of my and my husband's life. So when I say our, I'm talking about me and my husband because we've really done this together. So I know many of you don't want to spend your days thinking about money or feeling yoked to the almighty dollar, or anything to do with money is just so raw for you emotionally. And this is exactly why I do what I do, because I love money. And there's some people who say to me, like, we just listened to your podcast because we need to hear you say how much you love money. But I do. I love money. I love making it. I love managing it. I love talking about it. I love educating people on it. And I am just getting started. That is what my integration these last few weeks have been about. So if you hang with me, I will do my best to make money from a personal finance and business finance perspective as simple as possible. If you remember one thing from today, remember that everyone wants to complicate money because then you pay them to uncomplicate it. All right. And that goes with almost any aspect of money. Nothing about money is actually complicated. Your mindset isn't complicated. You don't have big, scary blocks. Okay, so I don't believe in money blocks. I believe that we are conditioned with a set of beliefs from our upbringing, where we have all this intersectionality from our society that is rife with the patriarchy and Protestant work ethic and all that jazz. And there is nothing wrong or bad about you or the way you think about money. How you feel about money, all your money feelings are completely valid. Making money isn't complicated. The internet marketers are making it seem complicated. You don't need a full schematic for a funnel. You don't need to do business. You don't need to have a business that has a tremendous amount of volume if that doesn't work for you. You don't have to do webinars or any of those things. I personally don't. So I keep my business very simple, and because of that, it makes a lot of money. And keeping money is easy, especially when you have a Thrive List. And even investing money is incredibly simple. And that has been my own personal lesson over the last few years as well, really starting to unpack the beliefs that I have adopted around my own personal investing. We simply need to reframe, rethink, and reimagine what we want for ourselves, which I know is very hard for women and even men, and this is really something that I hope the Thrive List helps you with. We need to reimagine, rethink, and reframe our future. We have to really zoom out. I think we get too hyper-focused on what's in front of us, and that detracts from our ability to make money simple. And we need to understand how money fits into our lives to create wealth in all areas. In all areas. Money is a tool that brings us choice. We can buy back our time, peace of mind, and financial freedom. And it all starts with a Thrive List. So we're talking here today about, and I'm sharing about, how did I go from bankrupt because of past business failures to starting this business and being able to bring in the income to provide for my family, hire an amazing team, invest heavily in myself. I bought $10,000 worth of artwork this year from a wonderful female artist that I used my profit on from my business. We took on a huge backyard renovation, and we are steadily increasing our net worth year after year after year. And the Thrive List is critical to our being able to do this. And that is why I'm so excited to be sharing it with you today. Now, let me first tell you what I didn't do. I don't scrimp and save. I don't deny myself my favorite things. I don't cut back on Starbucks. I don't drive myself into scarcity and survival mode thinking, because that is exactly what is going to stop you from really achieving that level of financial peace of mind. And I've done those things before, and it's wholeheartedly less effective than Dave Ramsey will lead you to believe. So that is why we are looking at this differently. And I get asked all the time about like my favorite tools for budgeting. Is it Mint or YNAB? I don't use either because I don't budget. As a matter of fact, my approach to thriving got me featured in Money Magazine and Yahoo Finance for its originality and uniqueness and a different way of budgeting. And I realized recently that for me, talking about money is money is my hobby. I love reading about it, testing new things. I'm intrigued by the psychology of money, the energy of money, everyone's different perspectives, even if they don't work for me or if they don't align. Like I genuinely just love hearing people talk about money, whether it's from a scarcity perspective or not. Like, for example, I love the FIRE peeps. If you don't know what FIRE is, it's financially independent, retire early. And they often approach their work. They approach they believe in like work optional or retire early. Those are their goals, either to be work optional or retire early. And those are my goals as well. But their propensity is for extreme frugality that I just can't muster. Right? So I know that end result is possible for me, but I can do it my own way. And that's really what I want everyone to hear today, that you get to do this your own way. And I'm providing just another opportunity, another option for you if extreme frugality doesn't feel good, if budgeting doesn't feel good. And the Thrive List is how I approach managing my money from a place of values alignment, feel-good boundaries, and deep intentionality. Because I don't align with being frugal or frugality. However, I am incredibly discerning and intentional with my money. And we might be playing semantics here, but talking about discernment and intentionality around money feels much better for me in my body and for my nervous system than talking about frugality. Most budgets fail or become burdensome because they're too restrictive, right? Like you start to feel like you can't live, like these aren't livable. And so creating your Thrive List is the step right before you get into Profit First implementation, because we want you to be in a place where you understand what you want for your money from a place of intentionality and discernment, and not feeling restrictive or like things aren't livable for you in your life or in your business. And when you're a small business owner, your personal finances matter just as much as your business finances. And we discussed that in the prior week when we were talking about some of the mistakes that small business owners make. So the Thrive List is to step right before diving into Profit First implementation, because oftentimes there's a redistribution or a rebalancing that needs to happen, because business owners tend to prioritize paying everyone else before they pay themselves. And that means that there's a period of time where we need to evaluate your expenses, which can trigger feelings of scarcity. Right? So if you have a well-written out Thrive List, we know that we are always moving towards something better, even if we're eliminating an expense, and we never eliminate the thing that you absolutely need to thrive in your life and in your business. So when we combine our Thrive Lists and a Profit First mentality, even towards our personal finances, this is actually the best place to apply this. There's really no reason to budget. We pay ourselves first, which is what Profit First is all about. It's about paying yourself first. Take your profit first, then you do your CEO pay, then you pay your taxes, and what's left over is what you pay your operating expenses. And so you can do the same thing. You can apply that same concept to your personal expenses. So we pay ourselves first through retirement, investments, life insurance, if you have a mortgage payment, and then what's left you spend on what you need to thrive. So you genuinely don't need a budget if that's how you're going to live. So creating your Thrive List allows you to align with what matters most in your life, and then spend your money, time, energy, and attention only on those things. This is the first step in knowing your numbers as a business owner and aligning your desire for financial freedom with your personal freedom, because oftentimes what happens is small business owners come to me and they're like, well, why'd you start your business? And they say, oh, well, financial freedom and, time freedom, schedule freedom, personal freedom. And they work so hard for that financial freedom. And sometimes you do in the beginning. I'm not gonna pull the wool over your eyes. There's a period of time when you're starting your business where it's hard work and you're putting in more time. And there are things that you are making intentional trade-offs for in your personal life. But then you get to a point in business maturity where you need to look at, is this chase for financial freedom causing me to sacrifice personal freedom, right? And in the Bold Profit Academy, my goal is that when you're in that building phase, in that growth phase in your business, regardless of how long you've been in business, the Bold Profit Academy is not a newbie program. It's not a newbie program at all. Can we start even back in that growth cycle to get a better integration of this financial freedom with personal freedom? And then in our Bold Money Mastermind, which we're going to be opening up for enrollment very shortly, we're looking at really claiming back that personal freedom while not reducing the financial freedom. And that's scaling. That's the purpose of scaling, is to continue to add financial growth without it inhibiting your personal freedom. I know a lot of people think of scaling as just more and more and more, and it's exhausting and I'm going to burn out and what's the point? But actually scaling done right is about simplicity and intentionality and making things more effortless and easy, not about complicating. It's about being simple and straightforward. So when we don't have clear goals and a purpose, it's easy to work incessantly chasing someone else's goal or these fictitious benchmarks that you see, or empty marketing claims that leave us feeling burned out and unfulfilled. And that deep fatigue contributes to feelings of desperation and scarcity. So it really is a hamster wheel. It really is this looping cycle that you can get stuck in if you don't make a decision to step out of it. Now, there is no limit to what can be included on your Thrive list as long as it's what you consider non-negotiable in your life. Your Thrive list serves as a framework for your boundaries with yourself, your relationships, your money, your time, and your energy. Thriving, and we're going to talk about why I position it this way, but thriving is about prospering and flourishing. The items on this list should be things that bring you deep joy, fulfillment, satisfaction. It's a step up from basic needs. We all know we need to have a roof over our head and some food on the table and some clothing on our bodies, right? But what's beyond that? Now, when my husband and I were at our financial worst, we had very little tools to help us get out of survival mode. We didn't even realize it was possible to do things differently, even though I had started working on my money and mindset and was using a lot of manifestation techniques. At this time, my money mindset and belief in manifesting was a heavy lift because John, my husband, was more practical thinking, black and white, engineering type in his thinking. And I know this comes up a lot with just humans, but also in couples. I feel like the way I speak about money is a good combination of both the energy parts that I incorporate from my Reiki training, my advanced Reiki training, but also my practical way of thinking from being an Enneagram 5 and, my degree in industrial organizational psychology. And I've had moments in my life where I've swung all the way one way or all the way in another direction as I was learning about money, but I have really come back to this grounded center, which some people really appreciate about me. Most people do. And of course, there are some people who want to be more magical in their thinking, and a little more airy-fairy and hopey and wishy, and then they think I'm too grounded. So I get that I'm not for everyone. It's never my intention to be for everyone. But if I stay in this place, I can also help more people it's truly where I thrive and where I shine. And also I understand when we have to have these money conversations with our partners and our spouses. And as a business owner, see, I come from a little bit different of a perspective because both John and I own small businesses. However, this isn't always the case, and most likely it's not. So you as a small business owner are trying to convey something to somebody who's getting a paycheck from a business, and it's a completely different language around money, but we can bridge those gaps. Or you might be some more like me, where I was more in like to manifesting, and I am a manifesting generator in terms of my human design. I'm more into that way of thinking, but I also had this person who I love dearly and has a huge influence in my life. And he's definitely more of a practical black and white engineering type thinker. So I really enjoy working with people who are in these types of relationships as well, because I think there's a lot of personal growth for both sides. All that to give you some context as to where I'm coming from with this. So we had no money, and that's just what was happening. From a very practical perspective, this was a time in our lives where we got really creative to make ends meet. And that really was me driving the creativity, me driving that vision, me driving that let's manifest this, and let's try and think beyond what our current situation is to get us to a better place. And I'm so grateful for that, because it's taught me a lot about how money is a tool, and money is energy, and money is repurposable, and money is renewable. But we were operating from fearful energy and the energy of surviving, definitely not the energy of pleasure or enjoyment, prospering or thriving. I joke around all the time, and maybe some of you who have been listening for a while know that John and I used to get ready in the morning, and we would put on deodorant, and we would remind each other just one swipe, because we were trying to make the deodorant last as long as possible, because we were trying to save on our personal expenses. So in May of 2015, now just for timeline purposes, this is 5 years after we went bankrupt. This was less than a year into me starting this business. And so it's May 2015, and we're on a road trip. And I looked at John, and we were on our way home, sitting in traffic on the Long Island Expressway, as you do on Long Island. And I said to him, I am definitely leaving my corporate job, and it's going to happen so much sooner than we expected. So when I started my business in December of 2014, in January of 2015, I established a quit date of, I believe it was March 2016. And I wound up leaving my corporate job in August of 2015. It was very accelerated, especially for me, because this is something I had wanted to do for 10 years, but was super stuck on how to do it, taking action, readiness. So if you're like, Tara's just a natural small business owner and she's an action taker and she's just everything she wants just comes to her. No. This was after a very long and painful process of me being way too afraid to take action and leave my 6-figure job with all the cushy benefits. And no, I didn't have mindset blocks. I had beliefs about what work was supposed to be and what it looked like and how you were supposed to experience that. So I said to him, I'm definitely leaving my corporate job. It's going to happen way sooner than expected. And I said, we need to stash as much cash as possible to carry us through those initial peaks and valleys of startup. Remember, this was not our first time doing this. We had done this before and it did not go well. And at this time, I was really blowing my own mind with the early success of my business. Pretty much immediately, I was very close to 10K months. Certainly, I think at work, we got our bonus checks at the end of January. And by that point, I had made more money, a lot more money than I even made in my bonus check. And I was like, oh man, like this is possible, right? I was excited. I was feeling more confident than I ever had in my lifetime and could finally see how something I felt was impossible was now possible. I also had trauma. Images of cashiers telling me that my debit card was declined while I had a full cart of groceries and 2 babies in tow were still too fresh. Or not being able to afford lease payments for a new car that I needed to go back and forth to work, or the interrogations from the bankruptcy court judge when we eventually filed for bankruptcy. All these things were really burdening and bogging down my system and my ability to move forward and make these decisions. I didn't ever want to go back there. And yet those experiences that I had were very linked to business ownership. So John looks at me, we're driving in traffic, and he responds with, okay, then we're going to go on austerity. And even if the kids want to buy like a video rental for $3.99, we're going to say no. Everything's no. And John gets so mad when I do that. And I impersonate him. He's like, that's not how I sound. It's really not how he sounds. But he really did want to go on austerity. And it completely shut me down. If owning a small business came with words like survival, scarcity, and austerity, I didn't want any part of it. I felt so confronted. I stopped the conversation and said that I needed to gain more clarity before we start cutting out Starbucks and kids' video rentals for $3.99 and getting rid of cable and Netflix. So the next morning, also what I want you to hear is you can always stop a conversation with somebody if you're feeling confronted and ask them if you can continue it at another time so you could regulate and get back into your body and have a more robust conversation with them. It's actually critical to having difficult conversations, which you need for business, for selling, for money, for all of those things. So the next morning, with coffee and a journal in my hand, I started to make my way through all of the complicated emotions I had and finally settled on the simplicity of what's the opposite of survival mode. It's thriving. This was not a genius move. It was just what was the opposite of. And I want to thrive, and my brain loves a good list. So I thought, let me create some boundaries around what it means for me to thrive. What will I spend money on? What do I need to make me feel good, abundant, prosperous, loved, connected, confident, all those things you want to feel? This is, how I know Danielle Laporte does a lot of work around connecting things like this to our feelings, our core desired feelings. So what did I need to feel good, abundant, prosperous, loved, connected, confident? What doesn't make me feel good about myself, loved, confident, abundant? I also want to give you permission to feel good. It's incredibly important. As a matter of fact, we have a podcast on this from earlier in the year. I believe it's called, Will You Make This Commitment to Me? So if you're someone who wants to be reminded of the importance of feeling good, please go listen to that episode and we will link it in the show notes. So when you ask yourself these questions, think of answers through the following buckets. With yourself, physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and emotionally are so important. Priority, especially if you are running a business, if you're a parent, a human being, whatever, mental and emotional health for me comes first, above and beyond anything. How do you want to feel in your relationships with friends, in your career, your relationship with your most important work, in your business, with the tools, systems, team, personal development, professional development, with your money and your finances? When I reviewed my list, what stood out to me the most was how little money was required for me to thrive. Now, you might be thinking this isn't true for you. Maybe you want all the expensive things. If this isn't true for you and your list is full of stuff, this is a good place to start with curiosity and really look at what meaning do these things have for you? Do they truly bring you joy, or are they filling a different need? Maybe they do truly bring you joy. That's fine. But realize that sometimes we put things on our lists that fulfill a need that we can be getting in a different way. And this is why I love doing the Thrive List over and over and over and over again, year after year after year, is because as I grow emotionally and as a human being, my Thrive List evolves, right? But don't judge yourself while you're writing your list. Let it be. And when it's on paper, then go back and review it with care and compassion for your desires. I was reading Tosha Silver's book, It's Not Your Money, over the weekend. And there was a quote in it by, and I might mess up this person's name and I deeply apologize, Ali ibn Abi Talib, that said, detachment is not that you should own nothing, but that nothing should own you. I'm going to read that again because I read that and I was like, yes, detachment is not that you should own nothing, but that nothing should own you. At our lowest financial point, we would have regular garage sales. At first, we had lots of items to sell that didn't mean much to us. It was just stuff. I know Dave Ramsey talks about stuffitis. It's probably one of the only things I agree with what Dave Ramsey says, but he does talk about stuffitis. But with each passing garage sale, we had to reevaluate the meaning we were giving our possessions. And even from a sentimental perspective, and like, how does sentiment exist? In where do we carry our memories? And is it in things? Or, was there a way that we could document the item and give it meaning and purpose and still release the actual physical item? And by the time we stopped having garage sales, because there just wasn't anything left to sell, I was literally inviting people into my home to buy things that were still in use or hanging on a wall. I mean, part of that was from the fact that we just truly needed the money. And that was what really allowed me to think deeper and to dig deeper. I hope that you don't have to have that experience. I hope that you can hear my words in what I'm saying, and that will inspire you to dive deeper into, why you keep the things you keep and what possessions mean to you and what stuff means. But yeah, I was, in full surrender to our financial situation and asking for divine guidance to take care of us. While going through this time in my life, people would ask me how I was dealing with it, or they would hear me talk about it and wonder what my primary feelings were. It has always been profound gratitude for the lessons. I would never be where I am today without this experience. After filing bankruptcy, my husband and I would talk about how we want to be in the world given this has been our experience. Like, how do we want to show up now that this has happened to us? Are we going to cower in shame? Are we going to let it define us in a negative way? Are we going to hoard all of our knowledge? And sometimes I do find myself being hoardy about my knowledge around this, not because I don't want to share it, but because I feel vulnerable sharing it. I feel I still have those strings of, talking about money isn't right, or it's uncouth, or we don't do that, right? But I'm slowly rewriting my own stories and my own beliefs. Because we have always wanted to be 100% open, honest, and transparent. And we have been in our personal lives, but this is me doing it, from my platform, which has a lot more, responsibility, but also impact, right? And so we've always wanted to be 100% open, honest, and transparent so others can learn from our experiences, realize that you can make giant mistakes and bounce back, and that we would forever be and teach others how to be exceptional stewards of money. As I share some of the items that are on my Thrive list, please remember this has been a work in progress for over a decade. 7 years ago, when I created my first Thrive list, it didn't end there. We revisit our Thrive lists annually and sometimes more frequently. Lately, I've been just living in this co-creation of my Thrive list. because things are changing in my life and in the world around us so quickly. And I want to be able to adapt to those things and incorporate them into my new way of being. So here are some examples from my Thrive list. Firstly, I am an introvert. Give me a cup of coffee, a cozy blanket, a comfy chair, and a journal. I don't love going out that much, and so I'm just as happy to get sucked into a really good Netflix series. I married my best friend, and we genuinely enjoy each other's company. It's the only thing that's kept us married for the 21 years that we have been married. So when we went through bankruptcy, we learned that we can find pleasure in doing simple things together. We are early risers and we tap out pretty early, so late night dinners just aren't our thing. But we love to connect over a great date breakfast or a simple cup of coffee in the morning. I was never a Pinterest mom. I found that stuff exhausting. Of course, in hindsight, I can see how my ADHD brain had impacted those early years of motherhood, making them so challenging for me. But I loved giving my kids 15 minutes of my undivided attention in the morning while they sat on my lap. They're teens now. They don't really want to sit on my lap. They don't even want to hug me. They barely want to talk to me. But they would sit on my lap and we would hug, and I would tell them all the things that I needed to hear when I was their age. Also probably an ADHD thing, but I just don't have a lot of bandwidth for clutter. Keeping things orderly drains me, so I'm a huge fan of things being minimal and simple and straightforward, especially business. And I need a simple and clutter-free life to thrive. It allows me to focus, be more intentional. I'm an essentialist through and through. So a lot of these things really inform my Thrive list. A great cup of coffee. I have a Sassy Coffee collection, Sassy Coffee mug collection that if you do follow me on Instagram, I do post them sometimes. So I will always be down to purchase a Sassy coffee mug, a good cozy blanket, a comfy chair, journals I buy in abundance, pens I buy in abundance. I would never cut my Netflix as a way to save money. So, these are all things that I need to thrive. And, even things like paying for someone to come and clean and organize my house on a weekly basis, right? Like I really value that because I don't have that bandwidth for clutter, and keeping things orderly drains me. Now, when I originally made my Thrive list, my kids were younger and it was a total drag having cloth seats in my car with their sticky fingers. I know the parents who are listening to this really hear me. So a car with leather seats went on my Thrive list. But here's the interesting thing. Like, I'm not a car person. My husband is a car person. He can really get into cars and their features and the technology and all that stuff. I do not care. It could have been a new car, a used car, listen, if they let me still roll up my car windows, that's the car I would buy. I genuinely don't even know how to operate my car with the level of gadgetry and technology it has. I'm very simple when it comes to my cars. The only thing I wanted was to not have gunked up seats, right? So that went on my Thrive list. At the time, I was also trolling the aisles of Target a lot and would get sucked into buying things because they were cheap. This was a time in my life where I was looking to save money, so I thought buying cheap things would help me save money. By the way, it doesn't. But they would also tend to be not important, or clothing that was trendy and would last a season, and then wouldn't necessarily be something I was interested in the next season. So when creating my Thrive list, I would put on it that I would only buy high quality clothing and high quality items because they last forever. They're worth getting mended and fixed. High quality items allow you to really get the maximum amount of utilization out of them, which is also how we want to think about our businesses. Are we utilizing tools to the maximum amount? Are we truly utilizing the things that we are paying for? And that's hard to do when things are cheap or falling apart. So I much rather have one pair of Lululemon Align leggings. If you don't have Lululemon Align leggings, you might want to try them and put them on your Thrive list, opposed to like 5 pairs of Target leggings. I would literally just wash the Lululemon leggings every day and wear them. That's fine with me, because they don't fall apart and they last. I have items specifically from Lululemon that I've bought years and years and years ago at this point. Now, my original Thrive list also had things like massages and manicures on them because those were requirements for me to feel abundant and to feel good about myself and to get me into my body. But they're not on my list now because it's absolutely lovely to get a massage. If massages are on your list, have at it. I judge you not. But I no longer need a massage to help me, connect with my body and be in my body. I can do that now on my own. They were critically important to help me get there, but now I don't need them as much. And, the pandemic really cured my desire for manicures because everything closed down. And I was like, well, why am I even doing this? And I'm fine without getting a manicure. So I'm going to pause for a second because I want to give you an action step. I want you to answer the question, what do I need to thrive with myself, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally? In your relationships with your husband and children, with your friends, in your career and relationship to your work, in your business, the tools, the systems, the team. For me in my business, I do not want to do it by myself. I know plenty of people who don't want to have team. I don't ever not want to have team. So that is what I need to thrive. Professional development. That is something that I need to thrive. I need to be supported by mentors, and I love to learn. And so that's where my money is going to go. What do you need to thrive when it comes to your money and your finances? And don't give yourself limitations. Don't question why you want what you want. Don't judge or be critical of your desires. Just allow it to just come out on a piece of paper. Or, I hear from a lot of people that journaling isn't their journey. So use a voice note or however you need to get this out of you. But obviously, our brains are not a great place to store things. So make sure this is out in something that you can access again or share with somebody else. And women have a hard time allowing joy, pleasure, feeling good in their lives. So for example, when I say that I'm an introvert and I have cozy blankets and coffee and mugs and that stuff and journals on my list, I spend on those things lavishly. Show me a good blanket. I won't even question how much that costs as long as it feels like it gives me the feeling that I want to have. And women have a hard time wanting, and when we can't claim what we want, we default to somebody else's desires. So it's so important that we are claiming our own desires and not someone else's desires, which is where we get lost when it comes to our money, our goals, and our businesses. So step 1, just get the things on a piece of paper, right? Write the list. Step 2, sit with it. I get asked questions all the time around how many items can I have on my Thrive list? What if everything on my Thrive list costs money? What if I need 801 pairs of Lululemon leggings to thrive? Which I get because I'm a big fan. So, you have the answers to these questions. Your intuition is critical to thriving. Your body knows. And so I want you to sit with it and allow yourself to revisit this list continuously and edit and check in and listen. I'm in a huge time of transition with my own Thrive list as I untangle my beliefs that I've adopted over the years from society, mainly marketers, and what I need and what are my goals. So, and how does this thing on my list support that larger goal? And how does it allow me to thrive in the attainment of that goal? 3, assess your life and business based on this list. I want you to block off time to sit with your calendar, your energy, your bank accounts, and align the items on your Thrive list with your spending of time, your spending of energy, your spending of money. Are there things that you are spending time, money, and energy on that are not on your list? Right? And those are the things that you are going to cut. And if you really want to amplify your savings, as you cut those things out, toss that money into your savings account and save it. Right? Like that's how when we were doing this experiment initially, we really accelerated that savings that I needed, is that we repurposed the money that we were spending on things that we didn't need to thrive into something that I did need to thrive, an account with some cash in it to allow me to leave my corporate job and run my business for the first few years with the ups and downs and peaks and valleys of early business ownership. That was more important to me than anything else. So everything got reprioritized to that. Step 4, share your Thrive list with your family and ask them to share with you what they need to thrive. This simplifies my life so much. I no longer need, as a mom, to do like all the things for my kids. I simply need to help them lead from their Thrive lists. Back to school is a great time to have this discussion. It's kind of like a reset for families. When my kids were younger, I would just ask them, like, what do they need to feel good in their bodies? Little ones are so intuitive and naturally connected. As a matter of fact, I find it easier, because my kids now are older in their teens, I find it easier to do this with younger kids than I actually do with older kids. This is a great time, like for my kids with teens, this is a great time to have conversations about money, personal goals, friendship that aligns with their values. All of those things can be highlighted on their Thrive lists. Now, when my kids clean their rooms or are feeling overscheduled or asking for lots of stuff, it's an opportunity for me to bring them back to what's most important to them. Remember when we had this conversation about what you needed to thrive, what you needed to feel good in your body, in your friendships? That's what I'm able to bring them back to. Now, step 5, join the Bold Profit Academy so you can work on further incorporating your Thrive list into your business so your revenue has purpose. Q4 is all about implementing profit first in the Bold Profit Academy. We meet you where you're at by supporting you in implementing profit first, and we have various money experiments for our clients in that program to help them turn their small businesses into mighty wealth-creating machines. In addition to the content in the program, which is designed for implementation, to actually take action from, right? We want to actually be able to demonstrate a result or that this was of value. So in addition to all of our content being designed for implementation, we host 2 co-working calls per month where we guide you in what to implement, and 2 coaching calls with me to help you implement with more specific guidance for your business. And there are 3 ways that you can join us. First, head on over to the Bold Leadership Revolution /Academy to join us. If you're ready, you don't have any questions, you're awesome, you're ready to jump in, you can do that right there. Maybe you have some questions about joining. That's great. I totally expect that. You can email me directly. And right now I'm going to give you my email address. It's tara@theboldleadershiprevolution.com. And if you just put in the subject line, I've got questions, I will personally answer those emails. The third way to join us is to head on over to theboldleadershiprevolution.com /academy and book a call with me. These calls are often helpful if you have deeper concerns. Maybe it's a money mindset thing. I speak to a lot of women who are they self-proclaimed penny pinchers or money hoarders. I mentioned this in the last podcast around mistakes that you're making. And sometimes we just need to do the math, right? Sometimes we just need to see that this is an okay thing. And you just need to or maybe you just need to do an in-person energy read. right? Some of my clients are very energy driven, so they tend to do an energy read and they're like, okay, I can do this. So upon joining, what happens is you will complete an intake questionnaire, which we use to create a custom 90-day growth plan for you so you know exactly where to start getting the results you want. I hope you join us. If you found this podcast valuable, help us develop more bold leaders in the world by sharing this episode with your friends, colleagues, and other bold leaders. Also, if you haven't done so already, please leave a review. I consider reviews like podcast currency, and it's the one thing you can do to help us out here at the Bold Leadership Revolution HQ. We would be so grateful for it. Special thanks goes to Stacey Harris from Uncommonly More, who is the producer and editor of this podcast. Go check them out for all your digital marketing and content creation needs. Be sure to tune into the next episode to help you embrace your ambition and leave the grind behind.